Hello everyone, it's Max from the Nerd Desk, and welcome back to my Netflix Witcher retrospective. In the first video, we looked at all 3 seasons of the main series and the Blood Origin spinoff. If you haven't seen it already, I'd highly recommend you do. I'll be referencing them a lot today. But in addition to those series, Netflix also released a couple of anime films to expand and profit from the universe as much as they could. Both were released to mediocre reviews and at very different times in the franchise's lifespan, so it'll be interesting to see what these movies are like and if the flaws in the live-action stuff are still around. By the way, yes, these movies aren't their own thing. They are connected to the other shows. Both have the same designs for most things in the world, like potions and medallions, the same actors, and Geralt even uses the sword with Renfri's brooch on it from season 1 of the show. We've got a lot to talk about regardless, so grab your Netflix DLC armor, overpriced sword, and Henry Cavill cutout, and let's wind the clocks back to August 2021.
Oh, I don't think I'm a lot dumber than you thought that I thought I was once.
The Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf is a prequel to the main series, following a young Vesemir during the infamous sacking of Kaer Morhen. We see his origin as a young boy taken in by a Witcher named Deglin, and his experience with the Trial of the Grasses, which looks horrible as described, so points for that. Then, as an adult, he starts investigating strange cases of mutated monsters, while at the same time reuniting with his childhood love. The film opens with Vesemir going up against a strange-looking Leshen, using methods that he'll go on to say don't work in Season 2 of the main series.
There are several ways to kill a Leshen.
Fire through the heart is the only thing that puts one down.
Almost 200 years old. What a genius. Then he's asked by the King of Caedwyn to track down the source of these strange monsters that have been terrorizing the kingdom, alongside his resident mage, Tetra, who is basically dollar store Yennefer from looks to personality. They find out that the person behind it is an anemic Lindsay Lohan. No, but she's actually an elf named Kitsu, who fell victim to the real ones behind the mutated monsters, the other Witchers.
What?
Apparently, because monsters were dying out and the public hates the Witchers already, Deglin and a few others used magic to make more new dangerous ones. They even kidnapped a few elves as part of the experiments.
Are you username LadiesMan217?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Are you username LadiesMan217?
Then the third act basically devolves into everyone, monsters included, raiding Kaer Morhen and killing all the Witchers we were never introduced to. How did the monsters not attack the people too? Kinda weird. The whole story feels like a sequence of events that needs to reach a specific climax no matter what, which raises the question of why this story needed to be told, especially when Netflix changed the lore to make Kaer Morhen the only Witcher school on the continent. A lot of parallels can be drawn between the sacking of Kaer Morhen and Order 66 from Star Wars. A group of warriors massacred by the government, leaving their main institution destroyed and their survivors scattered, and that's definitely the energy the movie is trying to capture. The difference is, though, Order 66 was a shifting point in a giant ongoing saga that affected the entire galaxy. The Clone Wars ended, the Empire began, the Death Star was born, and the Chosen One became the violent right-hand man to the Emperor. Meanwhile, this was the destruction of one Witcher school in one corner of the continent, and the surviving Wolf Witchers still use it as their home, and they aren't fugitives either like the Jedi. Yes, the other Witcher schools were ransacked in the books as well, but again, Netflix changed the lore so Kaer Morhen was the only one, so there. An event like this would be better if it were seen in flashbacks at most. If anything, the ball on Thanedd Isle is more like Order 66, and we know how that ended. Because of the jagged structure, the characters also suffer a bit. Vesemir himself is pretty good, and his relationships with Ilyana and Deglin are solid, but Tetra, Kitsu, and just about everyone else are pretty sidelined, so you're not really attached to anyone who dies in the massacre, and it's hard to feel bad for Vesemir because his relationships with them weren't fleshed out very well either, save for Ilyana's death scene because it was pretty emotional.
It doesn't seem real.
Another weird piece is the similarity between the mutated monsters in this film and the stronger magic monsters in Season 2 of the main series. Both did come out in 2021, and I know the production schedules were probably different, but this film shared a lot of the same creative team as the show, so I don't know why they wouldn't try to connect them together. The only reference to this movie was a light mention of Deglin in a conversation between Vesemir and Cirilla, but it's overshadowed by the real fan service, The Swords from The Witcher 3. The two plot points are so similar that I wonder if they were made from different drafts of the same idea. And yeah, the continuity and rules of the world aren't really consistent with the main show or Blood Origin either. Wait, what? The film is also obviously an anime, and I think that idea is pretty cool, but there are times when the movement looks really choppy, but I know absolutely nothing about how anime is made, so take that with a grain of salt. At least the voiceover is okay. Theo James is a pretty good Vesemir, Tom Canton returns as Phil Evandrel in a handful of scenes, which is nice, and Deglin is voiced by Graham McTavish, who plays Dijkstra in the main series. Another thing he's too good for. Oh, and D. Bradley Baker, Fred Tatasciore, Steve Bloom, and Nolan North are also here, as creatures and extras. Anyways, the film then ends with Vesemir taking the few remaining Witcher boys from the ruins of Kaer Morhen, and a certain someone gets a cameo.
There'll always be another monster. Geralt.
At its best, Nightmare of the Wolf is a cool little window into a usually unseen point of time in the Witcher universe, and at worst, it's poorly paced, disengaging, and confused with its own world building and lore, which adds up to a pretty mediocre product. It's still better than what came after. And speaking of, where Nightmare of the Wolf had an original script, 2025's Sirens of the Deep is instead based on the short story from Sword of Destiny called A Little Sacrifice. It follows Geralt and Dandelion trying to help a man in love with a mermaid named Sheanaz. Then they meet a fellow bard named Essie, who falls in love with Geralt, which becomes difficult for him because of his insecurities with Yennefer and his suppressed emotions as a witcher. It's just a small-scale story meant to recontextualize the relationship between Geralt and Yennefer with some loose Little Mermaid stuff thrown in there for some style, which is a trademark of Sapkowski's writing. But Sirens of the Deep is instead about a war between underwater and land kingdoms because of the romance between the land's prince and the ocean's princess. It's up to Geralt to stop the conflict, and along the way, he meets Essie and feels bad about Yennefer. If it wasn't obvious from that plot synopsis, the writers saw the Little Mermaid romance stuff in the B-plot and cranked it up to 100 and left poor Essie on the back burner. They even included a scene of the villain singing and brewing a potion just like Ursula from The Little Mermaid. There's a twist on Anderson's Little Mermaid, not Disney's. Again, there's the question of why this movie needed to be made. If it really did, then all the scenes that should be about Essie and Geralt are instead given to royals no one cares about, out-of-place flashbacks to Dandelion as a kid, and a musical number that is literally just a ripoff. That being said, the fight scenes are pretty entertaining, and Geralt's dream about Yennefer is also pretty well done, so it's not all bad. And at the end of the movie, there's a teaser that Geralt and Dandelion are heading to the Dragon Mountains, which is obviously referencing the hunting party with Jackdaws and Yennefer, a short story and TV episode leagues better than this. There really isn't much to the main story here, just usual fairy tale romance tropes that get resolved when the prince drinks a potion that turns him into a fish and marries the mermaid. By the way, the opposite happens in the book. It's surface level, and you could probably watch this instead of reading Romeo and Juliet, but get the same experience. Actually, that's an insult. I'm sorry, Shakespeare. I don't know if this one is just me, but the animation has seemingly gotten worse. It's the same studio that did the other one, so I'd chalk it up to a budgetary thing, which I couldn't find any info on. The voice cast is pretty nice, though. Anya Shalatra returns briefly as Yennefer, Joey Beatty continues to be a great Dandelion, but most importantly, the Doug Cockle reprises his role as Geralt of Rivia from the games.
Draw your sword, look at me the wrong way, and I'll kill you.
Leave, or I'll kill the only real monster I see.
I was so happy to see him again. 10 years later, he's still got it. Liam Hemsworth probably could have done a decent job, but any opportunity to see Doug again is not worth passing up. I say that, but The Witcher 4 isn't out yet. Please be good. If you want to learn more about the original short story and how the movie gutted it like a fish, haha, Neon Knight and Exlatalis both have great videos doing just that. But in closing, Sirens of the Deep is just an excessive, rugged version of a smaller story that really isn't great. You can have dumb fun watching Geralt make fish sticks, but otherwise this is a real disappointment. In all fairness, though, it was really an uphill battle from the beginning. The Wolf had the luxury of being released during what I would call the peak of Netflix Witcher's popularity, but this came out after Blood Origin and the forgettable third season, but also after Henry Cavill left, which was the last straw for most fans.
You shut up!
I honestly think the idea of a Witcher anime could have been awesome. Imagine a series that retells the original events, kind of like that Bayonetta movie, made by the guys that worked on Cyberpunk Edgerunners, get the cast of the game to reprise the roles, and with a good budget, that seems like a pretty easy victory. But instead, we got disrespectful fanfiction, which means Alzur's Legacy remains the best Witcher movie. If you still want to see the universe in a Japanese interpretation, there is a Witcher manga that I haven't read but has pretty good reviews. In general, this series falls victim to repeating or copying the success of other things, but without the passion and respect that made them great in the first place. Believe me, I don't take joy in saying that because I love this world and these characters, but now it's going to be another couple decades before anyone tries this again. I know there are 2 more seasons of the main show that are coming out next year, and I'm sure Liam Hemsworth will do his best as Geralt, but the other aspects of the series have some serious heavy lifting to do. Maybe I'll cover those when they come out, but ultimately the current stuff is what the series will be remembered for most, so this feels pretty conclusive. Now, after all that stuff, we've completed our deep dive into Netflix Witcher. We had some laughs and some cries, and I genuinely struggled finding usable footage for this project online, but I'm still glad it happened. By the time this video comes out, the poll for my next comic comparison episode should be as well, so if you want to choose what comic I do next, that's where. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it entertaining and informative. Be sure to like and subscribe to see more from me in the future, and I'll see you nerds later.
Tell me why it ain't nothing but a holiday. Tell me why it ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it bad.